Good evening, community. How's everybody doing? It is another Monday. We have reached July 13th, and what seems like an endless COVID situation. Um, I could be wrong. Oh, we have a special guest with us today, and I'm excited to bring him on board as well. William
Yes,
Dowdell. He'll join us in a little bit.
absolutely. Yes.
Katina,
So
Erica, how are y'all doing today?
I'm great. I've been overwhelmed a bit, but I am leveling off and getting things off my plate. So if I don't add more things onto the plate, I'll be good. This is my birthday week, you guys. July
Hey!
18th. What?
What's up?
Yes. So
So, what sign does that make you, Katina?
I am a Cancer. I'm
I
a
don't know what
water
that means.
sign, the crab.
Hey,
Y'all see my tattoo? I think I got it. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see. Ah,
is that a Cancer tattoo?
yes.
Fair enough.
You know, I am very professional, but I am
As
also
we all are.
fun. So I have that dichotomy going. I can be fun, you know, feisty and professional all at the same time. But so excited, of course, to be with our guests, those that jump on and join us each and every Monday from 5 to 6 is what we're supposed to do. Let's see if we
You
can
know,
actually keep that.
you know
That's
what?
going to be an accomplishment.
It's going to be an accomplishment tonight because we have a lot to talk about. While we wait for our special guest William to show up, I have some thoughts on my mind that I just want to kind of run by you all. First and foremost, all right, you know what? I'm gonna hold those thoughts. What up, William? How you doing?
How is everyone?
We are great.
Hello.
Welcome to the coalition. Do you know everyone, Will? Do you know everyone?
Of course, I know Edgar, and I don't think I've met Erica before.
Oh,
No.
Erica, tell Will who you are.
Well, hello, William. My name is Erica Gibbs. I am a co-founder of Elements of Education, and I am also the Dean of Primary School at Citizens of the World Charter School, Kansas City.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's what I guess that's what I do.
Okay.
Yes, but who are you really?
I'm an amazing individual.
We spend a lot of time rattling off credentials, right?
Yeah.
So I've obtained this degree. I hold this position. I work in this place. And that's great, but that's what we do. That's not who we are. So like if I had to ask each and every one of you, like, who are you really? And you had to boil that down, who are you? Have you given it enough thought to actually be able to share that with someone? Edgar, who are you?
I'm a father. I'm a husband.
That's not who you are. Those are titles and positions too.
Oh, well, you know what, man? I don't know anymore.
So here's the thing. Drill it down to your why. What gets you out of bed each and every day? If you had to think about every single thing that you have done in your life, how does that show up? Because generally it drills back down to your why. So I'll give you an example. I always say, I know that I am a liberator. That's who I am, because every single thing that I do liberates someone that is attached to me, or at least gets them closer to freedom, emancipation, and independence, liberation. So that's who Katina is, despite what I've achieved, what degrees I hold, what positions I work, what businesses I own. I am a liberator. And I've realized that every single thing that I have done has been in that vein, right? So
you're also a liberator through healing, I gotta say. So not only do you liberate mindsets, but you also liberate like pain. You free people from pain.
I love it. Oh, that is so sweet.
I'm
wow.
a champion.
So did you notice that? So everyone knows, if you don't know and you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Katina Taylor. I am one of the co-founders of Elements of Education, Kansas City. Erica has introduced herself. Of course, you guys know Edgar. He is the founder of the Latinx Education Collaborative. But I wanted to say that you noticed that my name actually today says Eve, E-V-E, right? And so Erica and I, some other ladies, actually started with Erica and I having a conversation. And one of the things that we realized about Black women, and women even more so as a whole group, is that we are those that bring forth life. And as Black women, no other woman, no other species, no other animal can bring forth life in the way in which we do it. So I am Eve. I welcome you to Eden. And so I am being mindful of that, because that also lets me know that the words I speak, the actions I take, the things that I do have the ability to create. And so as long as I think of myself in that way and other women, then, that just keeps me in the mindset of creation, opportunity, hope, optimism, and all of those other things. So I know that we have, I'm trying to see that I'm getting an echo somewhere. I don't know if that's somebody's phone or what.
Me,
but,
sorry.
No, that's fine. So let us get with William. William Dowdell is our guest today. William and I met several years ago. We were teaching in the same building at the time. I walked up to him and I was like, "You know who you look like?" He was like, "Go ahead and say it. Everybody already says it all the time." I was like, "Tyler Perry." I was like, this is his doppelganger. Oh my God, he looks like Tyler Perry. And so we struck up a conversation. I found out later he is an amazing, amazing educator. But even more than that, so far, that doesn't even scratch the surface of who he is, what he does, what he's capable of, what he's already accomplished, and what he will accomplish moving into the future. So he's no longer teaching in the classroom. Many of us aren't right now anyway. But he is now with the Kansas City Social Innovation Center. And so I wanted to invite him on to tell us more about the Social Innovation Center, the work he does, and in particular, the brainchild that he has given birth to that will impact our youth in Kansas City and far beyond, because he's going to take the work that he is doing and it will be on a national and eventually an international level. So Will, with that, jump right in.
Wow. Okay, first of all, I'm blown away. I made it. So I'm on this show. Hey, so I was going to start. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm appreciating the work you guys are continuing to do. To your question, like, who are you? That got me thinking. So I'm going to start with that. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that I'm tired. That's me. I'm a disruptor. I'm a scholar. I think that I'm a person who has stepped in my forefathers' shoes. And I am a person trying to save authenticity. So
all right.
That's going to be the summation of who I am. So, and that's ever changing, like everyone, because I am now who I wasn't, just 6 months ago, like everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, I'm a part of the team over at the KC Social Innovation Center, and a big part of our lift, or what we do, is focused on equity, education, and workforce. And in that order, equity is above, behind, and under every single thing we do, and we try to move in an equitable lens, and we try to hold ourselves accountable. And then also the education. The education is a really strong piece, because what we do is try to deliver and enhance and support young people in education. We try to do something that is not about us, but terminally about them and their future. And then workforce. Workforce is two-pronged. We are trying to get young people ready for the workforce. We're also trying to get employers ready for the workforce that they claim that they want. But we work closely with employers. So, and then a big part of our charge right now is Hire KC. And Hire KC is, of course, I think, if not the largest, one of the largest internship platforms in our region or city. Last year, we brought young people together and brought them together with 250 paid workforce experiences. 75% of those were paid internships. and the other ones were direct summer workforce opportunities. So we're really proud of that. We understand the social impact, at least I understand, and I think my team does, of what it means to employ a young person. Excuse me, the amount of hope it delivers and the choices and the connections and the networks and how it elevates not only that young person, but family members and community. So we're just really proud of that work.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, let me interrupt you for a quick second. So as you shifted, you have a rich history in Kansas City, for those that don't know, as it relates to education. I mean, you work for the Kaufman Scholars, you've taught in the classroom, do you have your PhD?
I am actually, I'm a full candidate right now. So I'm into my dissertation.
So he is a PhD. We ain't got to talk about all that. He is a PhD. We speak that thing into existence. Remember, I told you I'm a life giver, right? So that being said, so you have a rich history. Why do you find yourself at the Kansas City Social Innovation Center today, at this phase of your life, versus still being in the classroom or some other role that you've occupied before?
Right. So, my life is a guided life, and I'm put where I'm supposed to be. It was funny. I wind up graduating from KU with my first master's in public policy and Russian. And I actually, when I finished up, I was one of 14. I was number one in my class, and I worked with foreign language officers, and everyone was getting ready to move on. A lot of people were going to the Pentagon. Officers were going to the Pentagon. And I remember helping some of the four officers who were getting ready to go to the Pentagon with their thesis. When we had all graduated, we were out, and I said, everybody was telling me about their next step. And I remember the guys saying, who were at the Pentagon, they said, we would love to take you with us. And at the time I had dreads, and they were like, we'd love to take you with us, but there's no way in the world we're going to be able to find a placement for you. And so here I was, African-American male. I had worked in Russia, I taught in Russia, worked in Russia, did research 4 different times. And I found myself sort of marooned in a degree. And so what do you do when you're an African-American male with a degree in Russian and public policy? You work at a restaurant. So I wound up working at a restaurant on the plaza, and I would always come in through Shawnee Mission, and I thought all of Kansas City was just like that. And I was like, this place is beautiful. And then one day I missed my exit, and I had to hit 71, and I went to 39th Street, where Horace Mann School used to stand. Mm-hmm. I was like, where am I? This is not like the plaza. And once again, I was just placed there. I wind up a few weeks later being able to leave the restaurant that I was working at because I met one of the former president of Kaufman Foundation, and that led to me being at Kaufman Scholars, and I was just entrenched. But in answer, I think, to your question, when I first came to the city, I was working in college access, and then I got to develop and push out a program called Males to Men for the foundation side. That led me to work on the Mayor's Commission on Violent Crime, Mayor James, and then that led me to be the community liaison for KC Nova. And so it gave me an opportunity to see, just engage in the youth perspective from a college access standpoint, from a mentoring standpoint, and then just from a safety standpoint, and a law enforcement standpoint. And then after that, I got to do some work abroad. My specialty is working in countries which are transitioning into democracy. So I had been in Central Europe and headed out to Southeast Asia, and I did some work in the Burmese transition in Myanmar. But when I came back, I felt that education was the next step, and I decided to go into the classroom. It was interesting. I used to say I did it as a form of service, not only to my community and young kids, but also to me, because I felt I had a lot to learn. It was the best 4 years of my life. I taught at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. Loved every day. I mean, my day would end, and I'd be like, what is 2:30? I was at the middle school, what is 3:30? At the elementary, what is 5:30? It was just, I was built for it. I loved it. I felt blessed and privileged, as a Black male, to be there. But because I had done college access and mentoring and, the sort of this health and safety and education, I felt workforce was the next step. Right.
And I agree with that, because we often tell our students that after graduation, the only track for them is college. But right. Many of them may want to do trade or technical school. Many of them may want to go to the military. Right. Many of them may want to be entrepreneurships. And if we only preach one path for them, then those that don't choose that, or it's not for them, or they haven't been purposed for it, because I believe all of us have been purposed before we ever show up here, then they feel like failures, or they feel like they're letting people down, or disappointments. So I thank you and I applaud you for offering another path for our students that see themselves doing something differently, which directly ties into what you're working on now, where our children can actually get paid to learn. So talk about that program and what you just built out.
Yeah. So I love it. One thing that was my aim when COVID ascended on the globe and everyone was retooling and we were trying to get our footing. I was looking at how, again, from equity, how can we do this from a space of equity, knowing that, if we were going to do the traditional internships this year, more than likely they were going to go to the kids who could get a ride, who had a computer, whose parents totally understood or have engaged with internships before. And so we were looking at a way that we could dismantle what we had and set aside a small number of internships, but then to take those resources and really look at how do we and really invest in readiness. That was the first thing that went through my mind. How do we invest in readiness?
What does that mean? What does readiness mean?
So readiness, I think, means how do we pack in and give young people those tools and fill those gaps of those skills with zero judgment. We're not pointing fingers. We're not even talking about why you have it, why you don't have it. What we're saying is we're going to walk them through this idea of readiness. A lot of it stemmed back to my time in education, scaffolding, right? And so before I get you here, let's start back there. And so what we developed first off was what we called the Work Ready Institute. How do you know kids are work ready? Well, I don't know if they're work ready, but if I build instruction and content that kids can engage in, they can engage in this just using a handheld phone. So we began to produce a series of webinars, our internal staff, really trying to position the young person to be work ready. We listened to what employers were saying. We listened to what the not-for-profit people in the not-for-profit sector, the for-profit sector, civic sector were like. What are those skills you really we think young people really need? So we came up with what we call YORP, or the Youth Opportunity Relief Program, and the relief is we were trying to create something that could give some revenue to young people. But also to come to them in their time of need of being disconnected from the life they knew in January and February. So kids just floating for like 5 months, and so we want to engage with them.
So these things are all online.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Everything is online, and the most important thing is everything we do. It is kids don't have to have broadband. They just have, I think we were talking, me and Edgar, and I'm like, they just need to have one of these. And the great thing about these, which I learned from high school, is kids will go on and look at a video, and then they can pass it to a friend, and that friend can log in and play a video. But we have 3 steps. The first step is a Work Ready Institute. It's a total of 4 hours of webinars, which are going to be self-paced. Kids can take their time and look at the webinars, do an hour here, 15 minutes here, 30 minutes here. Once they finish the 4 hours, we pay every student that came through $100.
So $25 an hour.
$25 an hour. Yes, exactly.
That's better than what some of their parents are making, believe it or not.
And but it also, and we're also doing badging. So again, we are trying to create this marketplace and create this currency of this experience so kids can actually store this experience. And then the second phase is going to be what we call elective content. and it's a 2-part piece where we have leadership content, and that's where we are reaching out to influential, powerful influencers in our community. The man up to my, just above me, I'm gonna go like, is one of them doing the interview along with Susanna. But we're reaching out because, you know, this campaign in leadership is, these are people you need to know. You got to network. Going back to my conversation that I had at KU, if I would have had a network, I'd have picked up my phone and said, you know, somebody just said something to me crazy, right? What should I do, or what can you do? And I've had that conversation before. Like, oh man, basically we're saying only if you weren't, you know.
Yeah, I almost said the word. Lord help me.
So we thought the leadership piece was really important. We want to bring them face to face with leaders. And then we have what we call a skill building section, where we are building modules, 20 modules. They are centered on self-identity, civic, equity. And we are, kids are able to sort of take this self-guided tour. They can pick each of these elements. They're going to be picking these elements for badging, but we're going to do leadership and skill building, right? And the fourth one is going to be pathways. So what skills can we give you, like Microsoft Office, like building a resume? And then finally, as an exit ticket, young people have to build a LinkedIn profile. So then they can come back and go to people like Mr. Edgar and ask them to be a part of their network. And then finally, the last stage, as kids finish up, and for that second stage, they're going to make $150. So that's great.
So and every step of the way, they are earning while they're learning. Oh, y'all hear that? Earning while you're learning. Okay.
because of course, their input and their time, because we're going to be learning from them also. And it's valuable, and they are valuable. And then the last stage is our project stage. Kids are going to be working or client-connected project, or what we call this community-centered focus group or project. They're going to be working probably in groups of 5. This is all, again, virtual. They can be using it on the phone, and they will engage in problem solving within their community with a leader in their community on that stage, which will last 4 to 5 weeks. Young people are going to earn $300. They will also be producing an asset. And so as they're trying to attack a problem, we've hired an English teacher from Crystal Ray who will be supporting kids to write a brief. And the groups will be writing a brief, and those briefs will be collected and published online and then offered to the city.
That is absolutely amazing. So that's so rich. It's so much meat. I'm not even going to attack it first. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Erica. Erica, do you have any questions about this program? What stood out for you? What did you hear that was phenomenal or not? Are they leaving anything out? Do they have everything in that they need to have in? What are your thoughts?
Well, my first question is recruitment. Like, how are you getting your students involved?
Excellent
Where are
question.
they coming from, and how are you getting them?
Right. That's a great question. So we have primarily been recruiting through social media. We have been recruiting through schools. Quickly, we learned that wasn't enough. First of all, kids are really feeling the digital fatigue, right? Everybody's feeling the digital fatigue. And so right now we are trying a different approach, neighborhoods, churches, you name it, just trying to get kids where they are.
So the people that are logged on, William, sorry to cut you off.
No, please.
They are educators. They are parents. They are community members. And so how many spots are still open?
Yes. So we still have 60 spots for the Work Ready Institute. That's the $100 stage. And that gets them in the door to everything. I'm sure I'll be able to put up or leave a link so people can connect. We still have those spots, and we want, all kids.
So this is my challenge to everybody that's tuned in today. So 60 spots right now. I need every single person. And these are high schoolers and college freshmen.
They're high schoolers and college freshmen. And we're actually opening it up to college sophomores and juniors.
So if you know a high school student, if you know a college freshman or a college sophomore, you need to be sharing this information. We're going to get a link for you. We'll plug it in with those people in your life, with those people in your network. If you know other parents that have high schoolers or college age students, we need to get them plugged in, because what is missing, and what I've heard countless times from employers, they said, we can teach you the technical stuff. We can teach you the hard skills. But what I heard you say with the Work Ready Institute is we are giving these students, these young people, the soft skills they need to go out into the world and be productive and ready to be successful. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. We're taking that message from employers, right? And giving it right to kids to get them ready.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
Also, so I want to go back to something. I know we're talking about the program, but I just have to go back because, of course, I have locks, right? And last week, we had an opportunity to actually talk about, thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia just put the link in our chat. See, our people are smart. They are quick. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes.
So the hirekc.org Work Ready Institute. That is the information you need. It's right there. All of you that have said hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello back to you. My birthday is on Friday, but I appreciate the early birthday shout outs. Go to my page. I am fundraising for an organization called The Gift. So I need everybody that I know on the sound of my voice to give $10 to that organization. Why? Because it funds Black businesses. And let me connect this to what we're doing. Why is it important that we fund and set up and support Black businesses? Because they are the #1 employer of Black people. Oh, boom. William Dowdell is training up. Probably the majority of his participants will be young Black and brown students that need to go into these jobs, but they won't have that opportunity if we're not getting them the soft skills. Y'all see how I did that? It all ties together. Like, we are connected. We are interdependent upon one another. But I want to go back to this whole thing. Last week, we had this whole conversation around the Crown Act and the fact that women, more often than not, encounter discrimination as it relates to their natural hair. So not that I'm happy that you had that experience, but I often think that we leave men out of that conversation if they have locks, if they have braided hair, cornrows, and things like that. So the fact that you were #1 in your class, you spoke Russian, Black man. You had done all of this amazing work and were denied an opportunity, or someone said to you they wish they could take you and you knew you could outperform them. That's a problem. So that's why we need to support the Crown Act. All right, y'all. So we linked all that back together and all that. Y'all see how I do that all the time. I'm just letting you know I cannot let any opportunity go by. So I just wanted to call that out. I want to say I'm sorry that happened to you. I always want to give space. I'm sure that you have since, gotten over that and moved on and all of that good stuff. But the fact remains that many of our young people in our educational institutions and many of those in the workplace are denied opportunities either at the beginning or to further their careers based on the fact that we wear our hair the way in which it grows out of his head. That is a problem. So getting back to the topic at hand, and I'm trying to look at the comments too. Edgar, is there anything we need to acknowledge? No, we're good. Okay, good. So let's continue this. So 60.
I will say that just quickly to interrupt, because you won't give us your what's the word? Your Cash App. I made sure to put the link to
he did
tomorrow in there as well. So if you want to support Katina on her upcoming birthday, one of her many wishes is that we donate to that organization. And so just as an FYI.
Thank you so much, Edgar. So he put the link in the chat.
That's a good question.
For that. And then Elizabeth has an amazing question that just popped up. Is the program only for Missouri students?
Great question. No, it is a regional program. So right now we have kids. We have about 27 school districts covered right now. In the region. KCK is very important, and those kids need a lot of support and help all the way down into the southern part of the region.
I'm so glad to hear that Erica is that KCK wine dot person on the panel. Many of her, she has, let me tell you, you don't know about her. So every week she's like our celebrity. She has like tons of people tuning in just for her. Like pretty soon she's just gonna take my spot. We're gonna be like, Erica, can we get your autograph, girl?
Whatever. I just have some amazing supportive people. I see Brian and Ben, Kim,
yes,
and all the people that aren't tuned in.
Yeah, make sure y'all tell the rest of the folks to come on. Bring in the aunties, the cousins, and all that good stuff. So originally you had a deadline of today to fill those remaining slots. You and your team met earlier today. You realized that you wanted to make sure this opportunity was available and you touch as many students as possible. So you've extended the deadline. Is that just an open rolling deadline, or will you have a hard stop date?
Well, we're going to have a hard stop. Unfortunately, we have to. And so that's going to be this coming Friday at noon. So we're going to take it as far as we can. And we definitely want to use every slot. But also, I want to give a shout out to my mentor, my sister, Cynthia Fales.
All right.
Back. And so I just want to thank her for putting up that link and constantly always looking out for me.
Yes. So between her and her husband, they are usually here every week with us. They push our thinking. They challenge us. They broaden our discussions, and we so appreciate them. I think that I'll be getting to spend some time with Cynthia soon. So I'm so excited about that opportunity as well. She is a firecracker. So thank you, Cynthia, for posting that information. Thank you for always tuning in and being supportive. So again, they go to this link. What will they find when they get to the link, William?
So when they get to the link, it'll literally just walk them through. They'll start to build their profile. But the important message here is that when they build their profile, they can still begin the Work Ready Institute. It is just a step-by-step guide explaining that they can start watching these videos and the reasons behind the videos and what we expect them to get out of it. To start, they're about a 5-question survey they'll take, so we can get a pre and post, so we can get a pre-baseline for a pre and post assessment. All of that takes, about 20 minutes to set up, and then they can start watching the videos.
Awesome. That is wonderful. So those of you watching, if you have some questions, can you stay around to the end of our hour, or do you have to go?
No, I said, well, this is where everybody is, so I'm going to stay here.
All right, cool. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. There is a lot coming at us right now, you guys. And so today when we're having our planning meeting, I think we were all over the place. We were like, what do we do? What do we discuss when the information is coming out so quickly? So we're going to have our version of hot topics. And so for those of you who watch daytime television, go ahead.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Because you had asked a question at the very beginning, and when you asked who I was, and I gave my titles, but I never got to tell you I tell everyone who I am. Yes. I am very clear in that. There is no stuttering, so I can tell you, and I want to make that very clear so everybody knows who I am. Yes. I am love. I am light. I am love, motivation, and understanding. I am inspiration. I am peace. I am wisdom.
She always got to do it all like that. Y'all hear her voice and stuff. I am. I am. So let me tell you another thing. She is I am. I am. William, you are I am. Edgar, you are and I am. So in our understanding of what that means to be an I am, you guys, what that means, and I'm going to get a t-shirt just going to say that. I already told Erica, we just going to walk around saying God. And I know that may scare some people and it might frighten you. And we're not saying that we are a deity. But what we are saying is if we believe the scripture, if we believe that we are connected to the universe and all spirit things, and we have the ability to create, and then that scripture says that we are made in the image of, therefore, we are walking around as what? The creator. We just God. We just got it like that. And I think for Black and brown people, for poor people, people that have been marginalized, it is extremely important for us to walk in power in that way. Ben, I see what you said. It is very important. And this is an opportunity for us to recalibrate the way in which we think about ourselves as Black and brown people, as people that have been oppressed, as women. It is extremely important. And I know that may be scary for some of us because, you know, our older, that silent generation, that baby boomer generation, they're going to be like, what y'all talking about now? That's blasphemy. No, what we are saying is we have the ability, out of the mouth, we bring forth light. We bring forth life as well. And so why not walk in that power and authority? And that doesn't mean that we will then take that power and authority away from other people. So I love that, Erica. Someone says she's been a teacher since they were kids, and she is a great poet. Brian, her cousin, says I wish she would do more of her stuff, but she won't. But that's okay. We eventually gonna get a book.
It's coming.
We're gonna get a book out of her. Ben is also an educator as well. Ben, thank you. I think this is the first time that you've joined us. I saw that remodel job you did. Those pictures, pretty good work. I might need to hire you. Okay, so that being said, let's get back to the topic at hand. There are a lot of things going on in the world of education. So there has been something circulating around social media channels in regards to a statement, supposedly, allegedly, that the education secretary, Betsy DeVos, has said in regards to opening schools. Now, we know that her and her crony, her boss, Trump, have said that, I never speak his name. That schools need to reopen regardless. And some people are saying that she said, it's okay. We can go ahead and do that. Only about 14,000 kids will die. It's all right. What say you, listening audience? What are you thinking about in terms of school opening and or saying that 14,000 kids, it's okay if they get sick and or die? What pops into your mind? What are your thoughts, William, around this statement of our Secretary of Education?
I have a question. I just before anybody answers this, I like to layer this question on with another question, which is like, what do these 14,000 kids look like?
Right.
Who are these 14,000 kids? And so I think that number, actually, I did a little bit more research, Katina, and that's a 0.2, like something around like the fatality rate and da-da-da-da-da-da. So I think that's where that number is coming from. And it was some mathematician out there did the math on that. And so 14,000 kids is the number that came out. But I love to raise that kind of question. Like, who do those 14,000 kids look like if we're going to do the math and the percentages? Just kind of.
Well, I think we start by answering the question by who's been most impacted so far. That's generally Black people, people of color, Hispanic people, poor people. But I'll give Erica and William an opportunity to chime in. Who do you think these children will be? And is it okay for us to sacrifice them for the sake of opening up buildings?
Yeah, well, I think COVID has actually really shined a light and illuminated the cracks, the social cracks we have in society. And unfortunately, school has been really proficient at displaying gaps. And I think that, disproportionately, young people of color, right, fall short within school. And so when we start talking about the overcrowded schools, when we start talking about 30 to a classroom, when we start talking about packing kids on buses to cut corners, as you know, we were at a school that we know just physically that school can't handle COVID, right? It couldn't handle school before COVID got here, right? So I'm a little bit afraid of that number. I'm also afraid of when teachers start to abandon schools, because a lot of these kids have teachers who don't look like them, and those families are going to start thinking about their own. And so what happens when subs can't come in? The schools become overcrowded. Teachers are teaching on their plan hour. And so then we see that number of 14 go up. The other piece is the trauma of those kids who aren't a part of that 14.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we know where it's going to land because we see where it's landing.
Right.
That's where I am.
Erica, what teachers? So, and that's a good point. The majority of the teachers do not look like the children that they teach. So then, and Erica pointed out, we talked a little bit earlier today, that those teachers will abandon, you know, white flight is real. Mm-hmm. And so then do you think there will be a move to say now is an opportunity to increase educators of color?
Well, this is what I think, because I'm in the thick of it. Like, I'm in the trenches of it all. And the bottom line is we are being bullied into opening our schools.
Come on, say that again. Say it again.
We're being bullied into opening our schools. They are threatening to pull our funding if we do not. And unfortunately, this is the society that we live in. And so as an administrator, educator, and as a parent, you know, this is what we have to deal with. And the reality is that it's going to affect poor, Black, and children of color, period. It's going to affect the children. It's going to affect the people that in those homes. So if you have at-risk parents at home, grandparents at home, whatever the case may be. But let me also highlight a group that aren't being discussed, which is the teachers themselves. Because we are human beings with families, with children, and we have to interact with these students, and we have to, you know, do that. And not every educator, whether it's an educator of color or not, is going to abandon them. So those of us that are going to stay in the trenches and be in the trenches, knowing that we are exposed ourselves to this, and we have to go home to our children and our families and things like that, and have the potential of exposing them. And so, you know, there has been very little consideration for that. You know, this is all about, and then I keep hearing, I've heard from multiple places, you know, in the media and things like that, opening schools is going to support and increase our economy, which I don't understand how, because we cost the government money versus the other way around. But anyway, you know, whatever your logic needs to be. And so the real issue here is that we are expendable. Period. Somebody has to, there are always casualties of war. So whatever your agenda is, which is unclear because there are multiple conspiracy theories out there, so we can all come up with our own and make it feel right for us. But at the end of the day, the real people that have the agenda know what it is.
And so the art of war speaks to getting rid of as many of your enemies as you can at a time.
Exactly.
And that's what a genocide is, right?
Exactly. And so here we are functioning with a government that has never valued us anyway. So at this point, you know, you talk about the achievement gap, you talk about, you know, all these multiple disparities. So let's go ahead and get them back in there at any cost, or else we'll pull their funding. And then, you know, let's just see what happens. Let's just hope for the best. And whoever gets, you know, lost in the crossfire, oh, well. I mean, that's just really how it feels, you know, and that's what we're dealing with. And school districts and, you know, across the country are dealing with, how do we go back into these spaces, and how do we function, and how do we protect and keep our kids safe?
So let me ask this question. So we're being bullied. That is so vivid in my mind when you say that we are being bullied into reopening because of the threat of cutting the funding.
Mm-hmm.
But if we unify, right? So
yes,
you take superintendents, you take boards, school boards, you take educators and administrators. You know, if you guys stand up, we parents, grandparents, students themselves will come behind you and lift you up. So when I think about superintendents of color, when I think about school boards that are majority people of color, help me understand why they have not taken a position to challenge their state boards of education or the government itself and say, this is not okay. We are not going to do this.
Understand why?
Yeah, because help me understand. What's your take?
What's my take? I think fear. That's the number one factor.
Of what?
I'm going to explain that. So
Okay.
if you think about, the level of sacrifice that it may be required to go with that, you consider these uncertain times with COVID and people losing their jobs. You're thinking about all the things. I can tell you, and I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm just want to put that out there. I'm just ready to do it. But in any case, though, I do have to think about, I do need an income because I'm the breadwinner in my household. And I got 3 mouths to feed, my daughter, my mom, and my niece. And so, it's more than just my sacrifice. Other people stand to have to deal with that. So then there's that. And then, it's the unknown and all of those things. So it's going to take a huge collective to push this agenda, a huge collective. And not knowing if you step out there and you're the only one, or you're amongst a small collective and others don't follow suit and you don't get the numbers. So it's a fear factor, in my opinion. It is a fear factor.
Have we been conditioned to participate in our own oppression to a point that now we can't even see beyond it? I remember when I did go to church, my pastor used to do an example of a dog being tied to a pole. And that dog would walk around the pole. And that's the only thing that dog did for years. Mm-hmm. So finally the owner said, we got you now. We gonna take the chain off. So most people thought, oh, well, this point in the story, that means finally free. We gonna take off running. Mm-mm. That dog just kept circling the pole. So is that who we are now in this country?
You know what? Yes.
I'm gonna jump in here because I think that it's maybe a different question. I think really, like, Black and brown folks are often pushed to answer one of two questions. Like, you're either risking your livelihood or you're risking your life. And I think that's the juxtaposition that we're always kind of in, particularly if we haven't ascended to whatever, whoever else's version of success we center or whatever. And so I really, conditioned, absolutely. Yeah. The system, but this is how we operate. This is and we have this false narrative, right? Whether we either choose, I think that's binary, right? It's a binary choice. We live in binary options, which is the censoring of white dominant culture and white supremacist culture. Yes. Is that correct? I could be wrong. That's Tema Okun.
That is.
And so for me, it's like, that's the false choice that we have to make as Black and brown folks, is like, we either have to choose our livelihood or we have to choose our life. And something that we need to be talking about is like, so what's our third choice? What's our third way?
I love that. What is our third way?
Yes, what is the third choice? That's it.
Well, it's interesting. Katina, you said the piece about the dog, and it's when you take the chain off and the dog doesn't run, but it's when its puppy has seen it confined and that puppy stays confined. Because we're talking about our kids, right? Yes. And so we are conditioning our kids to understand that they lack value. And so they're caught. Can you imagine the trauma? So if mama and daddy aren't going to come get me, then who will? And that's the thing that gives us pause and makes us stop. Because our puppy is not running away. It's standing there like it's chained, waiting, right, to be one of the 14.
Wow. That's powerful. I don't even know what we supposed to say after that. I don't even know.
Also,
so we're modeling oppression and gearing our kids up to take our place in it.
I want to.
That's why I can't do it. That's why I can't participate.
But
I want to talk about the analogy.
That has happened to us.
I want to talk about the analogy about this, because like the fact that we're even comparing ourselves to animals is problematic. The fact that we're even creating a false equivalency with us and dogs is problematic. The fact is that we have to assert our own humanity in these conversations and say, I am not willing to put up my life anymore for this. This is not what I was designed to live in. This is not what I was This is not how I thrive. And when we do that to ourselves, we make it easier for everybody else to come in and equate us to animals.
Yeah.
And
that is directly contrary to what I said earlier, right? Because if we're Eves and we're gods, then we certainly, hey, there we go. All right, let's bring up some of these comments. Let's bring up some of these comments. No, I appreciate you doing that. So I want to go up to George. He said when I asked the question about who would take the places from of the teachers who abandoned their posts, or not necessarily abandoned, but they choose themselves and their families over the kids that they teach in those families. So, and I said, will it be an increase then in the number of Black and brown educators that we see in the classrooms? And, you know, you can market that and promote that and promote it as if it's going to be finally, you know, this increase that we need. But understand that's part of the plan as well, right? So it's genocide also, because then we're taking that back to our communities. We're taking that back to our families. So we still see an increase in the number of people of color that will also be negatively impacted by COVID-19. And also, George said it'll be an increase of educators, but no increase of pay. And you got that right. So if we already know we struggling in the pay area, we will continue to pay, or they'll want to pay you a sub salary versus coming in and paying you what you're actually worth. Brian said his idea would be that the government builds bigger mainframes and servers, more laptops, and conduct education at home. Brian, however, let me ask this question, because many of our young students, Erica, you know, teaches leads a primary division. Her specialty is in pre-K to third grade. She and I both talk a lot about the fact that those children need something in their hand, tangible, concrete. That's how they experience the world. So how do we account for that with virtual education? How do we prepare parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, caregivers to educate those children in this environment? And then, Brian also talked about he's a veteran, 17 years in the Army. He said he knows about feeling like he's expendable. That's sad. But that's how Black men and women have always felt when it came to the military. If you go out and look on my page today, I just brought up Lavina Johnson, who was murdered, and the military called her death a suicide. That's a whole nother thing that's happened to women throughout the history of military, being raped, being sexually assaulted, mysteriously dying, just like they do at the hands of the police, and we won't say their names. That's a whole nother conversation. But you're right. People of color have always been thought to be expendable. We're the ones on the front lines, always being asked to give up something that no one else is being asked to give up. And I think that's the frustration, is that when will we get to a point where we say we are no longer going to give it up, but instead we're going to take what's ours? And that was another part of the conversation. If you believe in the word, you know, Christianity is something else. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil. Ooh. But I can roll with the best of them when it comes to quoting scripture. So if the meek shall inherit the earth, who has been meek? If the last shall be first and the first shall be last, who's changing positions? And how do we set ourselves up to take our inheritance? And I know that requires sacrifice, but we have examples. Spark Bookhart says all the time, this ain't something we got to rebuild, redo, look at anew. We have a reservoir of examples of people that made a sacrifice.
Katina, some will say, or Eve, excuse me, since we're here, some will say that our inheritance is not on this earth.
And you know what? I do not believe that. I'm gonna leave it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that I was purposed for something great. And everything that I touch, everything that I possess, everything that I encounter has to be great. So you can have that deficit mindset. You can have that pessimistic mindset because your faith is not connected to works. Therefore, you're going to suffer waiting for somebody to do something for yourself that you can do for your own. Like, no, I'm not buying that. That's a false narrative. That's something we bought into, believing that we're supposed to suffer as people of color, especially.
Well, that was the master's rhetoric.
Exactly.
Remember? You have to remember that. If you don't, that was the master. That's how they taught. This is what you're supposed to do. This is your role in life. Your position is where you're supposed to be. Now, when you die, you'll be liberated and free. But here, that was the master's rhetoric. That was the master's teaching to the slave.
I'm looking at this other comment. Even school and district level leaders aren't able to frame it as an appropriate. I lost it. There you go. Action as a response is still their employment at the end of the day. And we're going to have to start calling some people out, whether they look like us or not. Because, see, the thing is, we are not short on intelligence, intellect, money, or anything else that we might need so that we can create for ourselves. Why are we still begging a system that we know was not designed for our success and for our equity?
So that's
and saying save us and free us. Come on now, stop that.
When we talk about inclusivity, so one of my good friends out here, Marta Silva, if she's with us, if not, just I'm elevating her name because she posted something the other day that really made me think. She's like, why do we want to be inclusive and included in these systems that weren't designed for us? When we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, why do we want to be included in these systems, period? Like, I don't need that.
Yes, listen, I've been saying that, man. I'm sorry.
Come on now.
That has been an issue at my school. We have a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't include me. That means what you were saying is we got here. Come on, we're gonna let you in. No, I can't stand. I hate that. I'm sorry. Let me just.
William, you too quiet for me. Now I understand. I understand, William. You tied to some folks. And you got this organization you doing and all this stuff.
It's like double dutching. I'm standing there waiting to jump in. No, and I'm listening and learning. I do want to say though, this threat to pull funding. Districts are not funded. Individual kids are funded, and it's their right to education. That's what ADA is. I'm going to pay for that child who was in his seat. So this child already has this money earmarked. I think what we have to make sure is we don't perpetuate these false narratives and ththese false claims. We know that the president will say anything off the cuff, but the legality of it, because I don't want to scare parents, right? Mm-hmm. And that also shows the power parents have. We have to teach parents to use school as a tool the same way their white counterparts do. They have power. And so we definitely need to do that. So, but
I love that. You're absolutely right. Parents have to organize. Mm-hmm. They have to organize. They have to, and they have to mobilize and organize. And those are two very different things.
Not just black
and
brown
we have to
parents.
understand that.
Can we be clear about this? This is not just black and brown parents' issues. These are everybody's issues. And so,
and if they think that they've been left out, they sadly mistaken. You're right about that, Edgar.
And keep in mind, 56 million kids who go to public school, 56 million who are going to be affected, right? And these are our children. And so I actually think, I think that we have come to a crossroads. We've come head to head, and we're waiting to see who flinches. But right now, when a part of your own government says that is willing to put your children at risk, they're just waiting to see us blink. You know, and now we just have to decide. We can't say they have to mobilize and they have to mobilize, right? We're talking about our future, 56 million. Right. So
Trisha says she's a teacher and she bet many parents sees no other option but to send their kids to school so that they can work. And you're right. I believe that there is a direct correlation between the parents who are calling for school to reopen and those that are essential workers, right? But I also think there are middle of the road people as well. People that are on the cusp, like they don't qualify for any type of public assistance or whatever, so they have to work. So I agree with that notion. However, I do not believe that we lack the creativity, the ingenuity, and the innovation to get our kids educated in safe places and in safe ways. And the answer is not what we are proposing right now. It's my understanding that perhaps today, before the day is up, that Kansas City Public Schools will release their plan, and that it may call for we open it 100%, no caveat. Some other schools have done that. Some are doing hybrid models, but it's really interesting. I said to Erica and Edgar, maybe Edgar was on earlier today, we were having this conversation, and I said, it reminds me of the Haitian Revolution. The Haitians knew the land. They were able to defeat their enemies. So they planned, they strategized, they took, up the mantle of the art of war, and they defeated the enemy. But because they did not think through, critically think of, or about how they were actually going to change the system, all they did was change the people and perpetuated the system that they were already used to. And I think that that's exactly what has happened here. You had a school, a district come up and say, oh, we got 3 opportunities, 3 ways. We can open the way we normally do. We can do all virtual, or we can do half and half. But are you telling me that all these people with PhDs, master's degrees, specialist degrees, are so, Erica, I don't want to use the word, ill-equipped, that they can't innovate beyond what we've always had? Or are they unwilling to do it?
Well, or, Katina, because you got to think about the psychology of the thing as well.
Okay, call a thing a thing.
Yes. So if people don't understand psychologically the position that they're in, or they don't know how, because remember, we're talking about a whole unlearning process here. And if you spent your whole life, how habits are hard to break, all these things. So you spent your whole life in this system to try to come outside of that system, even though you know you need to. And whether you see it or not, you need to. It's just a hard thing that, it's almost like you need somebody to be standing right there saying, nope, don't do that, because that's what we used to do. Because it's so easy to slip back in. And if you aren't consciously aware that this is what you're doing, that's what you're going to do. So it's not easy, is what I'm saying. And psychologically, I'm not trying to make excuses. It just is what it is. So the Haitians, this was the system that they knew. And even though they wanted better and they knew that they needed better, the fact is that they either didn't know how, or they didn't see it, or it just, or they just fell back into it. But at the end of the day, it takes a strong mental capacity to be able to break, something like that. And oftentimes people need help. And if we don't have any, to build, to deconstruct and reconstruct, you have to, you do have to be strategic. But you have to be careful and conscious of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if we're operating in a state of urgency, because some things may urgently come up, oftentimes we're not paying attention to how we're doing what we need to do. We just needed to get it done.
So, state of urgency. You talk about urgency. I want to just elevate to the conversation that, according to some folks, Tema Okun particularly, urgency is also
a characteristic of white supremacist culture.
And so
that's true.
We have to start naming these things as they are too. And so I think, my question here in the hypothetical that I bring is like, can we just stop? Is that an option?
I've been saying that since we left for spring break. Just stop.
I just said that today.
I think that here's the thing. So the system is such that if we decide to stop, like, we're going to lose funding, we're going to lose all things. And so we somehow feel like we have to be forced to continue this stuff. That's just my question. Is there an opportunity? Is there a space where that third option might be that we just stop and we say, you know what, we actually don't understand anything that's going on here. We don't have the best advice, because I think we can all agree that folks have failed us and the guidance has failed us. And so instead of perpetuating and continuing a problematic system and continuing a problematic solutions, can we just stop?
William, can we just stop?
I think we're not going to have a choice. I think I love that you brought that up, Edgar, because if we don't, what's going to happen is, as we march into school, about November, that's when it's going to all blow up. And about November, we're going to be told, you know what, we can't do elections right now. We just can't do them. And so I think that we have to be mindful of the big picture, and so I was thinking, I looked up and I saw the coalition, and I was thinking about what you said, Erica, and that is, it is difficult to not only think, but navigate life out of a white dominant construct. It's very, very difficult. And so we're doing it here, And that goes against the entire system. But the one thing we can never underestimate is the lengths that white dominance will go to, right? Because it can out evil us. Don't think it can't.
It has.
It definitely has. So as because this is an illogical argument, the safety of our kids, and then that next argument, a free election. And so, you know, we are sort of destabilized, and we actually have, you know, when a child totally has a tantrum, what's the thing? They run around, they scream, but then all of a sudden, just to make everything just stop because they're overloaded and they can't help it, they just sit and go silent. And I think sometimes we need to just sit and go silent and say, just give us a moment, let us figure this out. So I think a lot of parents are not going to send their kids to school.
I know a lot as well. I get contacted almost daily by parents saying, I've made the decision, I'm not going to do it. What do I need to do this at home successfully?
Right.
And you know, I think we have to get to a point where we just shut it down. Yeah. Just because they reopen the school doesn't mean we got to show up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been saying this for years because the educational system is so piss poor as it relates to our children. I was like, pull your children. What are we gonna do? They're not gonna be learning anything if we keep them at home. I said they're not learning anything when they go to school. But how to hate themselves, how to assimilate, how to suffer PTSD. So will they be better off or worse off? There are some kids that are thriving since school has been out because we have not been sending them to a war zone. And I don't mean that literally, of course. What I mean a war zone is that people that do not understand, do not identify with them, do not love them, do not see their greatness. They have been victims of adultification, high rates of suspension, assault. We've seen what security officers do in schools to little girls. And then you say that you want to dress them up in the first day of school, outfit and uniform, and take a picture and post it on social media and then send them back?
Yes.
So that their spirit and soul will be killed? Yes. That's parental neglect. That's why I don't participate in this system. That's why I'm not in a classroom. How do you participate in the systemic murder of your children? Literally and figuratively.
Figuratively, yes.
So Imani says, this is about survival. If you are on an island with another family and there is one lamb, you might kill the lamb and share with the other family. The other's family is thinking to kill you so you don't get the lamb. Woo! But those don't have to be the only options, Imani.
Can I just say, come on, Katina. You know, I gotta my voice. That situation in itself is what we're talking about is the benefit of the group, the collective, the power of the collective versus the power of individualism. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, individualism is another characteristic of
white supremacist culture.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, cool.
We call it out all the time, y'all.
Yeah.
Because see, the other thing is, and again, it takes me back to those biblical roots, right? The mothers in the Bible that were fighting over the child. And so the king said, after they kept arguing, just kill the kid, split it in half. You take a half and the other one. The way they knew who the real mother was is she threw up her hands and said, absolutely not. You can have the child. So when I think about, and I get that, Imani, you said, I'm thinking about perspective. This is what you're doing. Oh, yeah, yes, the mindset of them. I got you. So that is who we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But at some point, see this whole thing, Black people, brown people, I know we loving. And in our DNA, that's who we are. But you got to love yourself sometime to pick up arms.
Some of us, Katina, some of us are loving. And I think we also have to understand where we perpetuate these systems ourselves. And until we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I don't uphold these systems, I refuse to participate to practice in these systems. That's
the work.
You know, that's the work.
That's the work. That's the work right there, Edgar. That's the work.
Do you trust your brothers and sisters? Do you trust your community enough that if you sacrifice your livelihood, that they will have your back? That you still would eat? That you would have the bare essentials that you need? Or is it that we've got accustomed to wanting all the things and the stuff that we got access to?
Okay, so
that we're unwilling to give it up. I mean, I'm just saying.
So you want to go back to into a lesson? I hate to say history because it's all about his story, but you want to go back because that's what got us here.
Okay, I'm just saying.
That is really what got us here. It was an assimilation. It was seeing all the things and all the things. I want to. Who was it? Muhammad Ali said, "I want a fine car. I want a nice big home. I want to." I want nice clothes. I want nice threads and all this and then the other. All these things that was dangled in front of us that we wanted, which equated to a good life. And not to say that it was wrong to want those things or anything like that. But what happened is those things took precedent over our morals and values and who we are as a people. And so when we started wanting those things more, then it was easy for us to sell out.
Is that why we can't boycott a Walmart? Is that why we can't just take a Blackout Tuesday and only just shop at Black-owned businesses? Is that what you're telling me, Erica?
I believe it. That's part of it.
So Hurston Fales talks about this, and apologize if you don't want me to name you on this, but I'm going to because you really made me critically think about this. Until the institutions that support our systems are led by Black and brown people. So we're talking about credit card machines. We're talking about invoice processors. We're talking about like the shipping of items. Those infrastructures are still not owned by Black and brown people. They're not run by Black and brown people.
That's right.
And so can we truly black out or brown out any type of institution? Because the underlying underpinnings of our economy are also supported by white institutions.
So I think we have to control every piece of the process. So that's logistics, that's manufacturing, that's distribution. And then that's, of course, the boots on the ground, the stores that sell, do whatever. TD Jakes over the weekend, I don't know why, because Erica know I'm tapped out of the religious circuit, so to speak. But he said so much that if anybody, I would implore you, if you woke, if you want to get woke, if you're religious or you're not, if you're spiritual or you're not, if you want to be liberated, go listen to the sermon he preached yesterday. It was for us, Black folk, brown folk, women. I was like, this is how you get free. This is how you get free. And so I encourage you to go and look at that. Why is it so hard to come together as a people? Because someone researched how many interracial couples there are on this. Ooh, my gosh.
Whew.
Wow.
So I'm gonna go ahead and tap that one out because I think that we love to talk about multiculturalism, and so this is something I thought a lot about from the term la raza cósmica. And so a lot of folks talk about la raza, right? The power of la raza, which identify as you want. It comes from, I forget, Mr. Vasconcelos' book, La Raza Cósmica, and the idea that in order to achieve this cosmic race, you have to erase your indigenous side. Like the only way that you come together is by creating the mestizo, which is your Spaniards plus your indigenous folks, and all of a sudden you combine, and now you have this cosmic race. And so some pushback to that is, one, you're erasing indigenous identity and culture. In fact, that was the strategy of some of our colonizers, because the narrative is colonizers came over, indigenous folks looked at them and were like, well, we're all impressed. They were like, wow, you have blonde hair and blue eyes and weapons. Like you must be gods. And that is a story that I've heard time and time and time again. The reality is indigenous folks fought. They were like, we don't know you. we don't care. Like this is not. They fought, and so part of the strategy was the intermarriage of race and ethnicity of cultures, because with marriage came property came land, and if you're not going to be able to defeat people, you're going to definitely take their land. And so for me, when we talk about that kind of stuff, we also have to make sure that we are not erasing the voices of those that are oppressed and marginalizing these conversations.
Ooh.
Just gotta throw that out there.
I think you handled it.
I don't know.
I mean, I think you did. We struggle as Black women, of course. You know, we struggle.
Ooh, I know.
In regards to understanding it, there are some phenomenal brothers out there doing some phenomenal work, and then when we look at who's on their arm, who wear their ring, is like, dang, but your mama was Black, bro. What's up with that? William, what say you about interracial relationships, couples?
Okay, well, I love this topic because I am in an interracial relationship. My wife, my queen, is Caucasian. It's interesting. I'm named after William Smith, who married Molly Smith, and she was on a plantation in Macomb, Georgia, and she wound up marrying the youngest son of the person on their plantation. And her parents were strategic. She was landed. As a matter of fact, she was one of the largest landholders in Macomb, Georgia, and my family still lives on that land, right? Awesome. But it's interesting because I don't want to. It's always a sticky subject for me because I think that we tend to mimic our oppressor, and we jump to that space of pointing fingers. It's interesting because the majority of African Americans in this country have Caucasian blood in them.
Of course.
That's, it's just a natural fact. And my Blackness is not reduced by the person I walk through this life with. My Blackness is so much larger than that. And it speaks to the fact that we have learned bad habits from our oppressors. I was reading slave narratives, and in one slave narrative, it talks about a family that actually got to work in the house and how they got to save these scraps. And the first thing they did was try to have their own ball in their little shack and mimic their slave owners. And so it goes far, far back, right? And so I don't really buy into anything that is divisive within the Black and brown community. Right. I have to have that bond, and that bond has to remain seamless. Right. And so I'm leery of that because, I know and then we always fall on this whole mixture, Black and white. And we don't talk about, so no one's going to say anything if I intermarry with someone from the Latinx community. We just have to be careful because it becomes a slippery slope, right? At the end of the day, James Baldwin told us to love our oppressor and feel pity for him. And if we love our oppressor, then we have to love those people who look like us. We have to love all of them. And that's just my strategy and how I move through this world. Because anything else, it distracts from the struggle that's standing right in front of me.
Edgar, you look like you were chomping at the bit.
I think, something that you said, which is really powerful, is that we can't lose our identities in these conversations, no matter who we partner with, how we partner with, like what that looks like. It really is this concept of like, we have to retain who we are. And in our conversations with our offspring or children, that's also part of it. So my kids are half white. And I'm navigating that conversation every time I get the chance, because they'll come up to me like, Dad, I am tan. And they'll make that comment. I'm like, all right, so what does that mean to you? Like, who pointed that out? Like, what are we talking about? Like, do you understand where you come from? Do you understand, like, this is your heritage and this is part of who you are? And so I think it's important that we realize that, like, maintaining your own identity and embracing your culture, whatever that is so important. It's part of, I think, the resistance. And so no matter who you partner with, being able to retain your own identity and to be proud of it and to show up and be present in that space and in that identity, I think it's so important.
And Brian said, I am too. And I'm not sure what that meant, what he was referring to. So Brian, chime in, let me know. Terrence said, "This is not our system!" Exclamation point. "Our ancestors built this nation, but not the system. White dominance has never happened. It's partially about surviving because we have and will continue to do so. This is about the survival of a system that can no longer contain or suppress what it truly is." And so all empires come to an end. They have a start date and they have an end date. Have we effectively come to the end of the reign of this Western society that was built on genocide, murder, rape, brutalization, and killing off indigenous people? That's just something to think about. Imani says,
we have not achieved the end of anything. Let's just be clear. Like, we are still well within. We are seeing materialize today. We are seeing ourselves fighting against these same injustices that were being fought centuries ago. And like,
will it stand though, Edgar? Will it stand? Will it implode? Will we become so weakened that we open ourselves up to outside attack?
Don't question my resolve. I will tell you this, because my resolve is my gift to my children, and I will teach them every step of the way to navigate these systems and to understand this is what this is what it is. This is what it needs to be, and this is how you show up for yourselves and for your community. If we can continue to do, because honestly, will it happen for me? Will it happen for us? I don't know. I'm getting kind of old. 2020 has proven that, like, this is not the world that we want to live in. And, like, whatever we thought we were safe from, like, it's no longer safe. And so it is my job I believe this is my job. It is my job to continue the resistance with my kids, to embrace them in their heritage and their history, to understand, like, this is what this is, to have these conversations at an even earlier age that they were had with me, and to make sure that they are proud of who they are and how they show up. Because I can't, unfortunately, sometimes it feels like I can't protect them from everything.
Right. You can't.
No.
And so
none of us are being protected from everything.
I have to hopefully instill some values in them. I have to arm them with knowledge, and also just be very clear and very honest about the realities that they face.
Yes. Brian says Erica will tell us that he's good with the skin he's in. So he's the one that brought up the fact that of the interracial relationships. So am I to assume he's also in an interracial?
Yes.
So help me make the connection of the question he asked and then this latter comment.
What? He's comfortable with the skin that he's in?
Yeah. But then he's the one that had actually brought forward, why can't we be unified as a people? Can someone research how many interracial relationships exist in the world? So I'm trying to make the connection. I might be a little slow. So Brian, you might have to help me out.
Yeah, he's going to have to explain that.
Okay, thank you. Imani said, we already got that one. You guys, I'm looking at the time. We are at 6:30. I guess that's going to be our new start time, because every week we keep going.
I got nothing to time right now, so let's see.
I have another live to do on Instagram. Y'all want to sweep over there at 7 o'clock? I'll be live. I do. I have an event on my birthday, July 18th. It is Branding Basics Chapter 2. I'll be talking about funding for businesses. So y'all know I'm a consultant. I work in education and in business, and in the legal field as well. So I take all of my lived experiences, all my professional experiences, and I combine them under my consulting umbrella. So, of course, I'm passionate again about liberation. How do people become liberated? By owning and operating their own businesses is one of those ways. So, that's my next thing. We're going to do some marketing and branding around our upcoming event. These young ladies are fierce that I am working with. And so I count it our joy to be even amongst them and able to participate. This is not about Katina, though. This is about all of us as a collective body and being. So first and foremost, I want to thank William Dowdell for giving up his time, his energy. I just am blown away by his ability to envision and then implement what he has seen, what he's actually been given in the spirit realm. He may not think that that is true, but I do. So I appreciate you taking to the Kansas City Social Innovation Center your visionary work and actually bringing it to fruition for the children of Kansas City and ultimately this country, because we know that it will be nationwide. Erica, as always, you're my girl. So glad to see you smiling. I know that as an educational leader, as a mom, as a woman, you have a lot to think about as we discuss, think through, contemplate reopening of schools in our communities, especially in KCK. Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas are very different places. They have their own unique challenges. And so you're navigating that side of your personal life. You're navigating the Missouri side because you work over here and serve over here. So you have a lot to think about. And of course, as always, our producer, Edgar, I almost want to think about it like, music. You on the ones and twos. He's making sure, our tech is working. He has been in it today. I was a little concerned last week. I was like, you kind of quiet. What's going on? So he was fired up today. I'm so glad. I understand that he often, for those of you that may have been thinking like me, he was quiet, but he is very intentional about every move he makes. And so if he feels that it is better for him to take a step back and listen and learn and support and give others space to exist, to voice their viewpoints, he does that. So you never have to second guess whether or not he's really engaging with us. He's absolutely there. And sometimes that engagement means he is quiet. So that is all of us for the evening. You guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
come back next Monday and join us. Bring some friends with you, invite them to tune in. We try to get out to the live comments. You know that you can reach out to us afterwards with any additional questions. George says he wants to come on one of these days. Bet. We got you. For sure. Let us know what you want to talk about. Inbox me and let me know, George, and we'll see where we can bring you on and bring you out, because he's running for political office too. So if we vote you in, we need to know what you're going to be accountable for.
Just quickly, everybody, on Wednesday, we're going to be hosting an event with Rosa Clemente. I'm just going to put this up there real quick. But I'm Not Black, a conversation about anti-Blackness and colorism in the Latinx community. It's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. So hopefully just join us for that conversation on Wednesday.
And then every Wednesday at 4:00 for you ladies out there, if you are an educator of color, let me rephrase that. If you are an education professional of color that happens to be female as well, then we invite you to join us for our Wednesday happy hours. That's our Hump Day happy hour. That's an opportunity for us to take away all the titles, all the positions, all this work stuff, and just be and talk about things that are unique to us as women. So you'll see that information on the Latinx Education Collaborative page. You'll see that on the Elements of Education Kansas City page. Invite others to join us. Grab a soda, grab a water, grab a wine, grab a beer, whatever, a vodka cranberry, whatever you need to get you through to the end of the week. Join us. So saying all of that, we love you. We appreciate you. We honor you. We support you in all that you do for our children, our city, your families, and this community. This is Katina Taylor. I'm going to do this. Signing out.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Have a good one.